All right, good evening, everybody. And good evening to you all that are with us. We appreciate you tuning in tonight. A little late to start, but different location. We are here this evening. It's good to see everybody. Let's bow our heads for a prayer. Loving God, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be here with each and every one who is not only physically in the room, but is also with us sitting in their homes. So we appreciate everyone tuning in, being with us. I pray that your presence and your spirit will be felt. Give me clarity of mind, clarity of thought. In your name we pray. Amen. Just a couple of housekeeping things. I want to remind everyone that's here, as well as everyone that's at home, that we will be meeting on Friday. We'll be meeting on Friday. And the goal is to be in the music room on Friday. That is the goal. Although I don't necessarily mind this space. It's not bad. It can work. If I get a little different chair. If I get a little different chair, and we have people who are saying in here. I know it doesn't matter to you all at home because you're at home. But to us who are here, I don't mind in here either. This is actually my first. This is my first choice. All right. So we are going to jump right in to our lesson tonight. Again, for those of you that are at home, we will have a PDF version that will be going around later this evening. If you are not on the Restoration chat or on any one of the Restoration platforms, you can get that from one of your friends that are on any one of those platforms. They can send it to you. I'll be sending that out later this evening. All right. And for anybody who is here and maybe watching us at home who would like a copy of one of the previous lessons, let us know. Either drop a comment in our comment section or send us a message and we'll get right on to it and send it to you. We are in lesson 7. We're specifically in Daniel chapter 6 tonight. Daniel chapter 6 tonight. And so I want to remind you about something that I said about the book of Daniel at the very beginning. I said at the very beginning when we first started studying the book of Daniel, and we said that the book of Daniel is separated into two parts. And they function in two ways. The first 6 chapters function with stories, right? And they function as wonderful stories that everybody loves to preach about. As a matter of fact, everyone has probably heard every story of the first 6 chapters in the book of Daniel. And so we said they function with stories. And the next side is what we'll get into on Friday and kind of moving forward is the prophecy. So the stories, because Daniel is a prophetic book, what is the relevancy to the stories? Well, the stories tell us how, and the prophecies tell us when. Yeah, you got that right in your paper. The stories tell us how, and the prophecies tell us when. That's important, the how, because the stories automatically should take on a greater significance in the context of the prophetic identity of the book. Now it's no longer just a story that was nice that we heard, the 3 Hebrew boys being saved from the fiery furnace. We realize that this is actually not only just a story, but it also is a how. How will conditions be in order for things to come to pass right before Christ comes? And so we talked about in the book of Daniel that there were 3 things, and I kind of call them the 3 C's that kind of undergird the book of Daniel. Anybody remember what those 3 C's were? Anybody? Choices was one of them. Commitment and circumstances, right? And what we said was your commitment to Christ ought to always inform your choices, no matter the circumstance. And what we said was that many of us get ourselves in trouble or find ourselves on the wrong side of living, if it were, because we allow circumstances to inform our choices. As the Bermudians like to say, irregardless, irregardless of our commitment. Yes, I know that's not proper English. But yeah, we do that, right? We say, yeah, it's not. Try to look it up. Try spell check. You'll get yourself all messed up. We will let our circumstances inform our choices no matter our commitment. And Christ says this, man, I need you to be so committed to me that your choices are informed based off your commitment no matter the circumstance. And that's what we see about Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah from the very beginning. From the very beginning, they make a choice in Daniel chapter 1 that their commitment to Christ would always inform their choices no matter how different their circumstances came. And remember we said at the very beginning of Daniel that journey that they took, right? That Daniel and his friends, that their journey from their city being destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, and Babylonian armies, that it was probably about a 2 to 3 month journey on foot from where they were to where they were going to be. And normally they used that journey and they made the slaves walk because they thought that it would break their spirits and make them more malleable. Is that a word? Yeah, I said it right. More malleable for them to be able to bend them to the will of whatever Babylon was. And they thought that in that 2 to 3 months that all those Hebrew boys would be so much easier and so much open to the influences of Babylon. What they didn't think was going to happen was actually Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, I firmly believe, took that 2 to 3 months as an opportunity for them to make a covenant with one another that we're going to stay true to the God that we know. And what we said at the very beginning was that in this kind of interim time, right, before things begin to shift and before things begin to change, that we need to take this opportunity not so much for us to whine and complain and talk about how bad and how difficult our life is, and we may have challenges that way. But what we need to do is take this time that we are able to serve God freely and serve God openly to make sure that we are concretizing, or that we are making sure that we are putting a strong foundation on our Christian experience. So that way, when I find myself in an adverse circumstance, I'm so rooted and grounded in God that my choices will always reflect my commitment to God. And that becomes a word for us in this season, because there will come a day and age and time where God's people will be oppressed, where God's people will be put in circumstances and situations where you will have to have a strong connection to God in order for your choices to be reflective of that commitment to God. And remember we said this. Remember, I'm just trying to build this thing here because I need us to be on the same page. Remember we said Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, for those who are the uninformed, if you would, haven't been with us, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But this pastor will never call them by those names because those are their slave names. Their real names are Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And what we said was, listen y'all, what we said was they weren't the only Hebrews that went to Babylon. That there were other Hebrews who went to Babylon. There were other people who got dragged into captivity, but they allowed the captivity to bend and make and redirect them, as opposed to standing firm and strong in their commitment to Jesus Christ. And I believe y'all, listen to me, I believe y'all that there are many of us, come on y'all, stay with me, there are many of us who, when we find ourselves in adverse situations, that we will find ourselves acting the way of those unnamed Hebrews who conformed and went the way of whatever Babylon told them because it was comfortable. It was comfortable. It was easier to conform. It was easier to conform than it was to trust in God. So I'm there. We're in Daniel chapter 6. We're right in here at the top. I need to give you that foundation so that we can understand, and you'll get some more of that foundation again on Friday before we kind of shift into the prophetic side of the book. Now, let me also say this before I get into this, that the prophetic side of the book is deep and heavy. I'm going to do my best to make it as simple as possible. All right? Cool beans. Here we go. So we're in Daniel chapter 6. What king and kingdom is now ruling? Well, even if we didn't know with the answers, we would know based on the image that Nebuchadnezzar is given in Daniel chapter 2. Who is now up to bat, everybody? Darius the Mede, and what's the kingdom? Medo-Persia, that's right. Darius the Mede and Medo-Persia. So Babylon has moved off the scene. By the way, when we looked at Belshazzar in Daniel chapter 5, what we said was, man, there is a limit. There is a limit. I know everyone wants to talk about how God's love is unlimited and it's great. You're right, it is. But there comes a point in time where God will look at you and say, if you're just, be just. If you're unjust, be unjust. If you're filthy, be filthy. If you're righteous, be righteous. That's what he says in Revelation. He's going to let you do what you want to do. At some point, he is not going to keep you kicking and screaming. Belshazzar made a choice, and it showed that his choice reflected to turn fully away from God, okay? So now that was the end of the Babylonian Empire. Now we have Darius the Mede. What happens as a result of this new kingdom coming to power? At the very beginning of this new regime, Daniel has ascended to the top in a very short time. He ascends to the top. Daniel chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be over the whole kingdom. Over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was what, everybody?
One.
He was one. So check this out. Here you have in Daniel chapter 1, you are nobody. In Daniel chapter 1, Daniel he's a slave being dragged off to Babylon. In Daniel chapter 6, Carrie, here's good news. This joker has now outlived Babylon. And he is now in a new kingdom, working for a new king. And it goes the king and then 3 governors, of which Daniel is one. The come up is real, y'all. The come up is real. Daniel's had this opportunity, and he excels in this opportunity according to Daniel chapter 6, verse 3, because Daniel distinguished himself above all others, which led the king to setting him over the entire realm. Yeah, Daniel distinguished himself. Look at Samuel first. I had this on the worksheet. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 30. Therefore, the Lord God of Israel says, I said indeed that your house and the house of your father would walk before me forever. But now the Lord says, far be it from me, for those who honor me I will honor, and those who despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Watch this, y'all. The whole thing that we see with Daniel is that Daniel, once again, because of his commitment to God, it informs his choices no matter the circumstance. When the circumstance changes, man, God and Daniel are still tight. So Daniel is still put in a position of prominence. You know how ridiculous it is to think that this slave is now in another kingdom. Don't ever doubt, y'all, what God has for your life. Don't ever doubt that. The only thing you need to focus on when everything is going around you, going haywire, what you and I need to focus on is staying true to our commitment to God. In other words, y'all, Daniel was a man of integrity. He was a man of integrity. Your talent can get you so far. Yeah, your talent will get you so far. But integrity is what God looks for in order to elevate those who say they are his servants. Talent will get you there. Integrity will take you through the roof. And for the people of God, y'all, get this. For the people of God, God blesses us with talent. But Levon, man, we know the truth of the matter is that some of us are sitting in places that we have no business being because our talent does not match the position we're in. And it's got nothing to do with our talent. What it actually has to do with is the fact that you have stayed faithful to God. And because of your faithfulness to God, when people count you out or try to force you out, this is what the word means when it says he'll begin to open doors that no man can shut. Because your commitment to God informs your choices. Your integrity is so intact that God says, yeah, I can trust you. I can trust you with more because I know that you won't let the more go to your head and make you act different. Anyway, some you know how it is. Some folk get a little position, they get a little title, and all of a sudden they act brand new. They act a little different. They act a little uppity. All of a sudden now things change. And God is saying, I don't need you to change. If you were humble before, even when I open the door, I still need you to be humble. So, how true the principle and honest of a man is Daniel? Daniel is so true to his principles and so honest that even his political enemies could find. Imagine that. And I know one political race that could use some of that. To my brothers and sisters in the United States of America, God bless you. He was such an honest dude and such an honest broker that even his enemies could find no fault with him. They're envious of the position he has in the kingdom. They're looking for dirt. They're literally on the phone with the Ukraine. Sorry, no. Listen, they could find no fault in him. They could find no fault in Daniel. And see, y'all, you have to understand that what Daniel is describing, the book of Daniel is describing about Daniel, and I would even go as far to say Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, even though they're not on the scene right now. The way the Bible describes them is the same way Revelation chapter 14 verse 5 describes 144,000 when they say, and in their mouth there was found no deceit, for they were without fault before the throne of God. While Daniel was standing in the courts of Medo-Persia, no one could find any fault with him. Nobody. And I believe that looking at Daniel gives us a glimpse of how God expects his people to be. Yeah, you got haters. Yeah, you got people who want to tear you down. Yeah, you got people who don't want to see you succeed. You got people who don't want to see you be successful. But the greatest testimony, Doc, that you can have about your life is that your enemies can find no fault in you. So, when they can't find any fault in you, they have to shift the focus. When people can't find fault in you, they'll shift the focus. And according to Daniel chapter 6 verse 5, they can't find any way to get at Daniel, so they decide to attack Daniel in the area concerning the law of his God. Now watch this. This has been a central theme in the book of Daniel. When they can't get at the person, they go after their commitment to God. Okay? So watch this. According to Daniel chapter 6, verse 7, how do these envious men go about putting their plan of attack into motion? They have the king make a law that no one should worship any other god except the king for 30 days. Now watch this. For a king who'd have no connection to the God of the Hebrews, his only testimony that he knows is Daniel's integrity. So he's still caught up in what his way of doing things. So they come to the court and say, man, king, we think you're the greatest. And remember, if you know this, in those days, kings were considered gods on earth. They were there to be worshipped. And so what did he say, man? Man, we think this would be a great idea. This is what we should do. We ought to make a decree that nobody should worship any other god for the next 30 days. King sits there and says, man, that sounds like a doggone good idea to me too. Sounds like a good idea. But once again, here we have in the book of Daniel, the main issue is worship. And this is just like before, because the penalty for breaking this law is what, everybody? Is death. And this is the theme that will play out in the last stage, just as the final test for Daniel revolved around true and false worship. The same test will be given to those people in the last days. We must embrace genuine worship over Satan's counterfeit worship. Listen, y'all, at the core of this conflict, because there is a conflict, right? There's a conflict, good and evil, God and Satan, good angels and bad angels. There's a conflict going on. There's a conflict that we don't readily see, but we know it's there, right? And at the core of this thing is Satan's idea that I deserve to be on the same platform as God. Right? And so the truth of the matter is that if we're not serving God, then who are we serving, everybody? We're serving Satan. And so here we see this very clearly, y'all. We see very clearly that this central issue of worship comes into play. We see it come into play in Daniel chapter 3. We see it come into play in Daniel chapter 4. We see it come to play in Daniel chapter 5. And now again in Daniel chapter 6. So first, the heart of the conflict is God's law versus man's law. Remember, we've already talked about this. That man wants to be worshipped, but God says what? You have no other gods before me. As a matter of fact, in Daniel chapter 3, we looked at the commandment, where the commandment said you ain't got no graven image and you shouldn't bow down. The very thing Nebuchadnezzar was telling everybody to do is in direct opposition to the law of God. So we see this conflict. What man wants you to do versus what God wants you to do. You'll have no other gods before me. Medo-Persian law, don't worship anybody else but Darius. So here we see it. The second thing we see is that Daniel's life, and at the end of Daniel's life, a conflict arose over worship. Who do you worship? God or man? So you have the conflict between God's law and man's law, but who are you now going to worship? God or man? And then thirdly, here's a little element that's here. It's not only who are you going to worship, but are you willing to compromise? Are you willing to compromise? Because what is it? They're not saying, man, you got to worship God forever. You got to worship Darius Caesar forever. They just told him how many days? 30 days. That's not bad, right? You can do that. 30 days. Just go back. Go back, right. Go back. Go on ahead. You can do whatever you want, but for these 30 days. And so do you see what happens here? You see what happens here? This sort of creeping compromise that is being offered to Daniel. You don't have to permanently cross over, but you can do it for a time and for a season. And my friends, if you have difficulty with rejecting those compromises now, in a relative time of freedom, what are you going to do when your life is really on the line? See, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah literally had to face life or death situations. And that's why I need to understand how we can preach about it and talk, how this is great, but you won't really appreciate it per se because our life isn't really on the line. Your livelihood may be on the line, but your life is not on the line. Your position may be on the line, but your life isn't on the line. Daniel has to make a choice. Daniel has to make a choice. And friends, you and I got to make the same choice. Y'all at home, we got to make the same choice. We have to ask ourselves, when the opportunity for compromise comes in, for a time and a season, what are you going to do? And before we move on to Daniel's response, I want us to catch this. I really do. This is something that God really spoke to me about. Number 7. What does it say about people who goaded Darius into this, right? Because Darius didn't really wasn't thinking about this. People goaded him into it. What does it say about it? It says, y'all, that we have to beware of flattering lips because they often carry hidden agendas. Jude 1, verse 16. I could preach right here for a minute. Jude 1, verse 16. These are grumblers, complainers, walking according to their own lust, and their mouths are great swelling words, flattering people to gain what? Advantage, y'all. Now you better be careful of flattery that comes your way on the wings of unsanctified lips. You better beware of that. And the reason why you have to beware of that is because that can open the door to push you to do something that you in your mind, when you really look back on it, I shouldn't have made that choice. And we're going to see here that when Darius looks back at it, it's like, oh man, I should have done it. So what was Daniel's response to the new law, everybody? Daniel chapter 6, verse 10. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, watch this, when Daniel knew the writing was signed, he went home, went in his upper room, with the windows open toward Jerusalem. He knelt down on his knees 3 times that day, prayed, gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early. You know what this joker did? He went home and did exactly what he's used to doing. Why? Because in his mind, nothing had changed. Yeah. But I'm sorry, anyway. He's not scared. Nothing had changed. Because he wouldn't allow a job. He wouldn't allow people. He wouldn't allow the threat of death come before his relationship with his God. But watch this, man. This is what really blew my mind. Did you watch what he does? He doesn't pray for deliverance, y'all. He just gives thanks. He gives thanks. He doesn't pray for a way of escape. He gives thanks. And see, this goes back to what I said earlier about Daniel. Daniel had so developed a life of faithfulness that when he comes to conflict, when crisis does arise, this is my routine, that his routine doesn't change based off the conflict. Yeah, it's what he does. I pray and I give thanks. Now watch this. See, this was really crazy. This was really crazy. Tang, this was really crazy. Is that clearly, everybody knows this about Daniel. This is what he does. Clearly somebody was looking. They were down there watching him. Yeah, they were watching. I kind of feel like. Yeah, they were watching him. Sorry. They were watching him. They were looking. They were looking. They were looking. And y'all better get this. Y'all better get this. You come here for a minute. Come back to later. I know. Bring back the lost sheep of Israel, man. Listen, and y'all better at home better get this. That people will test your integrity, and they will count on you to be a creature of habit with your integrity, so they can get you in trouble. They are banking on you to be Christ-like. Because part of their trap, man, the trap wouldn't have worked if Daniel wasn't going to be Christ-like. If Daniel was not going to do, if they could not guarantee that Daniel was going to get up, he can hear this, he going to get up there and pray, then their plan was all for naught. And see, y'all, you must understand that your habits of faith will sometimes get you into trouble. Now, it's no trouble that God can't get you out of. But if not, you still got to hang on to your habits of faith. Yeah, you still got to hang on. Because if you do not hang on, what has happened you have injured the witness of Christ way more by compromising than you ever would have gained something by compromising. So you've injured now because they're banking on Daniel to get up in his room, open the windows, be out in the window and pray. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, there he is. King, boy, we got it, boy, King. Check your messages. Check your check it. We can take it to the bank. They're there. They're waiting on him. They're waiting on him to be a man of faith. Don't disappoint your haters. Don't disappoint them. Continue to be the man and woman of faith that you are. Don't disappoint them. Live up to their expectation. Never live down. So Daniel, the decree is made. They run around the corner to wait to see. Gotcha. And they run right back to the king. O king, live forever. Did you not make a decree that for the next 30 days, ain't nobody supposed to pray to nobody else other than you? And the king, because he loves the flattery, oh yes I did. I made that decree. And did you say that if someone did such that they would be subject to death? Oh yes I did. Now why are you telling me this? Because there is a man. There is a man who has not obeyed the decree of the king. Y'all, Daniel's act of obedience to God does not save him from the lion's den. And I need us to get this. That obedience to God does not always mean delivery from the crisis. See, this is where people, they got me down here tonight, so I can't really stand up. But this is where some of us really get messed up. This is where some of us really have a struggle in our Christian experience. Because for some of us, we believe that our obedience to Christ ought to always equal deliverance. Lord, I've been faithful. I've been faithful, Lord. Y'all know the prayer? You know the prayer. Lord, deliver me from the hand of my enemies. I've been faithful. I read my Bible. I pray every day. I've grown in faith. I serve the church. I return a faithful offering and tithe. Lord, I've been a good person. You see me grow. You see me change my circle of friends. You see my behavior shift. You've seen the evidence of my maturity in you because my process of making decisions is different, Lord. You've seen that. Now, Christ is a risen God. I'm going to hold fast to those things. I'm going to be obedient. If I don't get delivered. What? What you mean I'm not? No deliverance? No deliverance. And this, listen, I just need us to get this, and that's why I say to y'all that are here, to y'all that are at home, that we don't really, the gravity of these stories don't hit us because our life isn't on the line. For Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, when they went before Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar was almost begging them to recant and bow down because I like you. And they said, nah, Nebs, you can't do it. And they said, our God is able. But if not, we still going to. And Daniel does the same thing, man. He just goes, says, all right, decree, great. I'm third in the land. I could have gone to the king. Daniel's is the king, and then it's the three guys, and he's the head of those guys. Daniel could have gone and had a king, can we veto this? Because you put me in a very uncomfortable position. He doesn't do that. He could have tried to leverage his relationship with him. He doesn't do that. Daniel goes and handles his business because sometimes obedience will not automatically lead to your deliverance. Daniel is sent to the lion's den no matter the fact that he's been faithful. Sometimes you get sent to the lion's den. Sometimes you get put in the fire, and not every time you come out on the other side unscathed. Yeah. So what does the king say that indicates that he had confidence in Daniel's God? Here's a huge testimony. Daniel chapter 6, if you're at home, look at this here. You're with us, look at your sheet. Daniel chapter 6, verse 16. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you. Now remember, y'all, this is not Nebuchadnezzar. And that's huge, right? Because Nebuchadnezzar has had experiences with Daniel's God. He's watched, or at least heard, how them being faithful when they first got there made them 10 times better. He's been on the front end when God gave him a vision about the future of the world and he could not remember and nobody could tell him, and God gave that to Daniel and the interpretation. He's seen the image of God, so much so that when he throws Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah in the fiery furnace, he says, did we not throw 3 bound men? He says, yes, I see 4, and the free, loose walking around, and the 4th one is like this. So he knows what God is. So he's got that, right? The only testimony that Darius the Mede has of Daniel's God is Daniel. Let that sink in. The only testimony that Darius has, he may have heard stories about this guy, but he hasn't had the same experience. The only testimony he has of Daniel's God is Daniel's living. And that thing is so powerful enough for him that it's compelled Darius the Mede to say to Daniel that your God, whom you continually serve, can deliver you. Notice the stark contrast between Darius having to throw Daniel in the lion's den and Nebuchadnezzar a few chapters ago when he has to throw Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah into the fiery furnace. He challenges them with and what God will be able to deliver you from my hand? Darius says, man, I know that I know I put you in this position. You stay true to yourself. Your God can deliver you. So how does Daniel... Well, let me read this. I think it's important. Darius' response illustrates God's great plan of redemption in this way. There is no human remedy for our sin problem. However, there is a divine cure. No human remedy for sin. Divine cure. So how does Daniel affirm how does Daniel affirm the king's confidence in his God? By exclaiming that God was the one who saved him from the mouths of the lion's den. Daniel chapter 6, verse 21 and 22. Then Daniel said to the king, O king, because now remember, Darius runs down there. Darius, as a matter of fact, if you read up before these verses, the Bible tells us that the whole time Darius is troubled. He's troubled by the fact that Daniel's in the lion's den because Darius knew that he had made, man, this isn't what I wanted to do. I was kind of manipulated into this, but now I'm stuck, right? I'm stuck because this is law, and I have to do this because if not, anarchy will ensue in my kingdom. So he throws who he knows to be an innocent man, a just man, into the lion's den. He's troubled all night long. He wakes up as soon as he possibly can, runs to the mouth of the lion's den and says, Daniel, is your God able? What does he say? O king, live forever. My God sent an angel and shut the lions' mouths, so they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. Daniel and Darius knew what was up, that he had been manipulated into making these choices, and now he was caught in a web of manipulation, and Daniel was just fodder of that manipulation. But because Daniel was, listen to me, because Daniel was upright, because he had not made a misstep, Daniel was delivered. And notice that in all things, Daniel always gives praise to God. Always gives praise to God. In Daniel chapter 1, praise to God for making them 10 times. In Daniel chapter 2, when he has the interpretation of the dream, he lets Nebuchadnezzar know, it's not me, it's God. In Daniel chapter 3, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, listen, man, our God is able. But if not, we still going to do it. Daniel chapter 4, why does Nebuchadnezzar write that thing? He tells us at the very beginning, I'm writing to you so that you'll know that the Most High God rules over everything. In Daniel chapter 5, Belshazzar, Daniel is saddened, but he lets him know that this is the interpretation that God has given me. And now here in Daniel chapter 6, as he is held true to his integrity, God has shut the mouths of the lions. Daniel comes out unscathed, and he gives all praise and honor to God. Y'all, this is all Darius needs to hear. All Darius needs to hear. All Darius needs to hear. And all Darius sees is Daniel. And as a result, Darius makes this decree in Daniel chapter 6, verses 26 and 27. He describes Daniel's God as being the living God who is steadfast and whose dominion is forever, and he works signs and wonders. When dealing with crisis, I didn't miss it. I went to the end on purpose. I didn't miss it. I went to the end on purpose. Because I wanted you to get this. He had no Bible study. He hasn't had any formal introduction to Daniel's God other than Daniel. And Daniel's testimony so impresses him, so makes a difference to Darius, that Darius declares, man, hey man, your God is the living God. He's steadfast. He works signs and wonders, and his dominion is forever. You know how powerful that is? And all this is off the strength of Daniel's testimony. This is why Daniel has confidence in the midst of crisis. He's got confidence in the midst of crisis. Yeah, I know that the circumstance has been built around me, it's not working really in my favor. But I trust God because I know that I've been a man or woman of integrity. See, when you know you've done nothing wrong, stand still and see the hand of God deliver you. Your enemies may rise, but stand still and see the hand of God deliver you. And because Daniel was able to do that, when he comes out on the other side, listen, some of y'all know this. You've watched office politics, you've watched relation politics, you've watched familial politics happen all around you, and you have had to stand still. And you've seen stuff happen when you've come out on the other side. Where even people who were against you. Now to testify, man, you got it. You got it. But watch this. Here's the other reason why we can have confidence in the midst of crisis. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. No temptation is overtaking you, except such as is common to man. But God is faithful. Somebody ought to say hallelujah right there. God is faithful. Who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will also make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it. Y'all, listen to me. No matter how difficult the crisis may be, our confidence rests in the fact that God is faithful. God is never in question, y'all. He's never in question. The question becomes on my end. Will I be faithful? Will I be true? Will I take, man, I keep getting back to it because it's so simple to me. Will I stay true to the commitment that I've made to God? Will I allow that commitment to always inform my choices no matter the circumstances? Sometimes it's circumstances that you bring upon yourself because of your commitment. Other times, it's circumstances that people have built up around you banking on your commitment. In either case, what we have to remember is that God is faithful. God is faithful. And once again, y'all, the God of the Hebrews, the one who by every sort of metric of measurement, that God should have been down. His people are in captivity. His capital city is in ruin. And here he is just receiving praise and honor in these non-believing kingdoms. Why? Because of Daniel's, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah's witness. My friends, we have choices to make. We have choices that we must make. And we've got to make them right now in a time of comfort. And our choices ought to be completely founded upon the strong commitment that we have to God. So that when circumstances change, I'm still committed to God. And that's what I love about Daniel. That's what I love about Daniel. And so my friends, tonight, whether you're sitting here with us or you're sitting at home watching us, whether you're watching us live or you're watching the rebroadcast, whatever it is you're doing, you have a choice that you have to make. We have a choice that we have to make. And it's a choice that we've got to continuously make every moment of our lives. Every moment of our lives. We've got to make that choice. Make that choice. And if we make that choice to be committed to God, it will help us be successful. And no matter the crisis, we have this hope. We have this trust that God is faithful. And he will see us through. And even if he doesn't see me through on this earth, man, the word lets me know that I'm just a stranger. I'm a pilgrim in a foreign land. This is not my final resting place. And so if I don't get it down here, then I can trust and believe that when he who shall come will come and does not tarry, he will deliver and he will bring with him a reward according to everything that I have done. And so I trust him. I believe in him because God is faithful. Friends, let's pray. Father, I thank you for the testimony of Daniel through Daniel chapter 1 all the way to Daniel chapter 6. I thank you how he has consistently shown his faithfulness to the commitment that he made to you. I thank you how we see even in this lesson, we can have confidence in the midst of crisis. Daniel was such a smooth operator that even when his enemies tried to create a web to entangle him, he didn't change nothing. Daniel wasn't worried. He wasn't concerned. He believed and trusted in you. And so God, help us to do the same way. Help us to be the same individuals that Daniel was, to look at his example and see that this is the kind of faith that we have to have in you if we're going to make it through this journey called life. And Lord, as we draw ever closer now and make the transition into the prophetic aspect of the book of Daniel, may we have clarity of mind so that we can clearly understand what it is that you would have us learn from these wonderful messages found in this wonderful book. Bless us, we pray, in your name. Amen. Listen, to all that are at home, I will see you prayerfully on Friday night. We may be just right here in the library, maybe in the music room, I'll let you know. But we are probably, well, the team here says they want to be in the library, so we'll probably be back here. We're going to be in the library, man, so God bless you. But if you cannot tune in, if you can't visit us here in the library, then tune in live. We will be live 6:30 Friday night. We are studying Daniel chapter 7. It kicks into high gear, y'all, it really does. I'm going to do my best to say the script so that we can get into what it is. But stuff is so exciting to me. And so I praise God just for these messages. And I hope that if you are home, that you can visit us. If not, then we'll see you on the next broadcast, all right? God bless you. If you want a worksheet, send us your email address in our comment section or send us a message. If you know anybody here from RM, send them a message. They'll have a PDF within the next 15, 20 minutes, all right? God bless you all. Peace. Be out. To y'all that are here, I'll see you.